Hi, I'm Barbara Tallent, the CEO of the At Company, and I'm thrilled to be presenting here at Techno Day. And I'm going to talk about an alternative to the current state of the internet. So 2020 was a crazy year in so many ways, but definitely I think it was a year when the majority of people figured out that the current state of the internet is not good for them. And how did we become so inured to data breaches? Do you know the number of records exposed was over 8 billion in 2020? That's the worst year on record for data breaches. But I think what set everybody over the edge was the docudrama from Netflix, The Social Dilemma. 36 million households watched the film in the first 28 days of its release, also setting records. Now, I'm in the privacy business, so you would think nothing on The Social Dilemma would surprise me, but that was not the case. I guess I always knew that social media companies were making money by keeping people on the site as long as possible. You know, the more eyeballs, the more dollars. But I don't think that I realized to the extent at which they were using people's data and behavior to manipulate them into staying on these sites longer and longer. I think that's what got everyone. People seemed okay with giving up their data, but when their data is used to influence their behavior, that's when it gets downright creepy. And of course, we can't talk about the craziness of last year without talking about censorship on social platforms. In an election year in the US, who should decide what you see online? In a Pew study poll of 4,700 people in the US across the political spectrum, 90% of Republicans and 50% of Democrats believed that social media companies were likely censoring their content for political reasons. And then there were the crazy changes to privacy policies last year. In fact, I'd already deleted Facebook off of my phone, but the new Instagram policy that gave them access to everything on my phone made me delete that one as well. And I do have to applaud some of the celebrities that brought attention to these new privacy policies that stepped way over the line. Luckily, legislatures have been taking note, and California was the first state in the US to implement a privacy policy last year. There are also organizations like the Data Dividend Project that shined a spotlight on some of the bad behavior from big tech and told us to stand up for our rights and to own our own data. And most exciting is that people are on the move looking for privacy alternatives. There were over 4 million downloads of Signal in January, and I'm sure this tweet from Elon Musk contributed to that. And when consumers vote with their feet, companies start to listen. I love this quote from Cisco. Jon Stewart said, "Data privacy protection differentiates businesses today. Do it right and you stand out, do it wrong and you'll be called out." I think that is so true. But what I found really interesting is that people are actually happy to share their data. If a company gives better information or a better experience in exchange for that data, people will happily share it. But they also want to be able to take that back. So we believe it's time for an alternative to the mess that was 2020. So it's not all doom and gloom. All through 2020, there were companies working on ways to give you back control of your data and privacy. You heard of some of them, but there'll be a whole lot more rolling out products this year. And here are some of the really cool things that you'll see in those products that we call, and on this alternative internet. The GDPR, Europe's General Data Protection Regulation, and the CCPA, California's Consumer Privacy Act, increased regulation around privacy in 2020. And in 2021, and the state of Virginia just passed their own privacy policy as well. But just as important, we'll see technology advances that will support this legislation and allow it to be enforced. The technology will provide you with the power to prevent and legally pursue in court any bad actors who do not treat your data on your terms and conditions. When you've withdrawn your data and disabled access, any person or company who's kept a copy has committed theft. Due to the changing nature of data ownership, these parties can be held responsible in court. All of this new privacy legislation prompted the ubiquity of these crazy cookie pop-ups. But it's time for cookies and the surveillance tracking that go with them to just die. Most companies don't know how to deal with this regulation, and so they pop up legalese in front of their customers. But customers are starting to click away, and now that they really know what's going on. Thank you to Momodo, an analytics engine that lets your site work without cookies. This is the pop-up that we have on our site. So we do not track people if they don't want to be tracked. Due to technology limitations, we've had to send files around, and then you lose track of the files and they get out of hand. But now technology is enabling the idea of lending files with permissions attached to them and time to live built in. And it's a beautiful thing for creators who finally get to control their own content. And end-to-end encryption was a novelty that was first introduced to most people with WhatsApp. But when WhatsApp was bought by Facebook, people realized that they wanted more privacy and security around their interactions with others. And so in 2020, we're going to see more options for secure chat. I'm sorry, in 2020, it was Signal and Telegram were the only options for secure chat, but in 2021, we'll see several options out there. And we'll also see secure options for file sharing as well. For many of us, the social dilemma was our wake-up call. We wanted options, and we want people and companies to ask our permission before using our data. And this isn't an easy thing for companies to implement, but we will see more tech-savvy companies roll this out in the next year, and with more following as the pressure builds on them. And we'll see a lot of these solutions come from open source software. Open source software is good for everyone. We need places where everyone can contribute to the online privacy challenge and ways for everyone to benefit. When you have lots of developers contributing to the effort, it's better for all involved. We really don't want any one company to own a large swath of the internet. And another really interesting thing that you're going to see with some of these apps is when people own their own data, the data can flow from app to app. And so it gives people just a lot more power. And so these are some super interesting experiences that you'll see over the next year or so. And there are a lot of companies working on this future, and here's just a few to watch. For me, the fundamental place to start is with the phone. Both eFoundation and Awesome are working on phones that don't track you. Imagine that. We've also seen the Mozilla and Brave browsers not tracking you. And then DuckDuckGo and Neva are supplying search without tracking. My own company is working on a developer platform that makes it super easy for developers to build apps that respect your privacy. And one of my favorite apps built on that is a contacts app that's completely peer-to-peer called Buzz. And I talked about Momodo Analytics, but mine is another really interesting company in the space. They will help you find all the companies that have your data and help you get it back. So an alternative to the privacy-based internet is growing, and we'll see it booming over the next few years. Take a look at some of these products. Most of them are new and 1.0 versions, but it's important for you to know that you have alternatives and that you can support companies who respect you and your privacy. So thank you so much for listening to my talk, and you can find me at barbara@atsign.com.